to.
Looks like we're live.
Yes, we're live. Hey, right. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Raising Healthy and Happy Kids. And every month, I'm going to invite an expert, which will be sharing with us some tips about obviously how to do it, how to raise healthy and happy children. This month, November, we've got lovely Sarah Parks here. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, it's really lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much for being here. And so, what Sarah does, she helps parents create more balance and harmony in their lives. And she also uses combinations of how to talk so children will listen. It's so wonderful, isn't it? That's what we all need in these days. It's just because we all struggle at some point with communication with our children, don't we? So, and all to help parents from being more stressed and not knowing what to do to confident and calm. Perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you for
So,
inviting me on.
thank you so much for being here. And right. So, this month we're going to talk about a common problem. That's what I think many families actually struggle with. It's mealtime distractions. It's many parents obviously resort to mealtime distractions, like using TVs, tablets, smartphones, just to get their children to eat. It just for most of parents it just seems like the only way, so they can get their children to sit down calm and basically get them to eat. So if you, like most parents, you might have, I don't know, have stress, been stressed about this. If you want to stop it or to know how it influences children, so this live chat is actually for you. So so we've got Sarah here to tell us how it actually influences children and parents. What do you think, Sarah, from your point of view? How it influences children when we resort to mealtime distractions?
Mm. Well, when we watch TV, particularly, or watch things on a tablet or a TV, we switch off. It is like a sedative.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're not conscious. We're not so conscious of what we're doing. We're not present to what we're doing. We're not present to the food we're eating if we're watching something. And I mean, I don't know if you've ever had this experience where, and I notice this a lot, with my children. If they're watching, particularly my youngest, if she's watching TV, it's like they forget about everything. They forget to eat. They forget to go to the toilet. They forget everything. It's like the body shuts down. And they lose that connection with their body, actually. And then as soon as it goes off, they're suddenly ravenous, really hungry, because they suddenly become aware of actually what is going on in their body. Or they they suddenly notice, oh my gosh, I'm desperate for the loo, because because they've just, it's like they've been, switched off at the neck.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure you probably had that experience as well, where you maybe never noticed that. So, I'm not completely against screens and things like that, but I think it's a tool that can be used with mindfully, really. And I think it's important to be used mindfully. And when we're going to be having a meal is certainly not a time. I suppose, and there's something about the kind of culture that you want to have within your household. You know, what kind of family do you want to have? You know, how do you want things to be in your family? And you know, for me, meal times are a time for connection, a time for the family to come together. You know, it's to share a meal is quite it's a social activity, and it's, you know, it can be quite a tribal activity. One of the things that I'm really aware of, and I don't know if you've noticed this, if you have a meal, a gathering, you know, it can be quite a tribal thing. And there is the power of the collective, the power of the tribe. So my children have gone to a kindergarten, and they would eat things at the kindergarten that they wouldn't eat at home, you know, and you know, and that is the power of being somewhere where there's a routine, where there's a rhythm, where there's because they, you know, they would have a certain way of and they would say a blessing before they eat, and they would so they would have some reverence for the food and be grateful and thankful for the food that they have, and share a meal, and you know, it becomes a really special time.
Absolutely.
And at the kindergarten where my kids went to, they have certain meals on certain days, so there's a rhythm to the week, there's a rhythm to the food, so there's an expectation the children are getting the same meal. For instance, soup on a Wednesday is soup day, so the children know Wednesday is soup day, so they have soup. And kindy soup is like amazing, you know, and it's big chunky vegetables they have, you know. It's not blended, it's not a blended soup. It's the kind of soup that a lot of people might think, oh gosh, my child would never eat that kind of soup. It would have to be blended, so you can't, you know, sort of hiding the veg and all of that. But these children, it's like kindy soup is golden, you know. It's like, and it's so funny. At home, you know, I can't make soup like kindy soup, you know. Kindy soup's special, you know.
Absolutely.
But it's partly because it has this whole atmosphere around it. So you know, I think part of it is thinking about what, you know, how do you want, what do you want the culture of your family to be? How do you want things, you know, how do you want meal times to be? And start with the end in mind, start with that point in mind, how you want things to be, and maybe take a look at how are things at the moment, because maybe you might have fallen into habits of trying to coerce or persuade or trick your children into eating into eating food. So maybe, you know, this, I suppose this is an opportunity to reevaluate and take a step back, have a think about how would I like meal times to be, and then put some things in place to bring you close to of what you'd like your meal times to be. So in our household, we have certain things. We eat our main meal of the day in the evening. We eat that together at the table.
Perfect.
With cutlery. Generally, not always. If it's sushi, you know, we're eating it with our hands, but you know, so we eat that at the table, and we have it about the same time. We eat our meal around the same time, between 5 and 5:30 is when we eat. So we have this regular rhythm. And I think, you know, as a parent, it can be really helpful to have a weekly rhythm, or, you know, plan your meals, because actually it makes it easier. You know, it takes a lot of energy to do that thing of, what are we eating today? I mean, you know, that's stressful.
What's for dinner? This is true.
What we're gonna have tonight? Oh,
constant,
you know,
struggle.
Exactly. And it's not efficient as well, in terms of you know, if you're having to go to the shop to get things because you haven't got them. You know, I would really recommend planning your meals. And do you know, we talked about doing this for a long time before we did it. And resisted doing it for a long time. But actually, when we made that transition to planning our meals. You know, when we
Mm-hmm.
go shopping, we buy the ingredients for the meals we've
Yes.
decided we're going to have that week. And then we know what we're going to be having on.
Yeah.
And so it takes the stress out as a parent as well. And
Absolutely.
I know some people plan for the whole month. Some people shop for the
Yeah.
month and have like a monthly plan. But that's one of the things I would also recommend to make things easier as a parent is to plan those meals, but also to have, actually, obviously there's going to be things that happen like a special occasion or, something happens and you don't eat at the same time.
Yeah.
But to have a regular meal time, I find really helpful.
Yeah. Do you involve your children in meal planning as well? Do you ask them what they want on certain days, or it's just...
Yes. Yeah, we do actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, one of the how to talk so kids will listen so kids will talk skills is offering choice where you can, to empower your children, to give them because there's so many things, they have to do, or we, need them to do, like, I don't know, brush their teeth, get washed, there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen in a day, and there's they don't have a lot of choice. So when we can give them choice where we can,
absolutely,
I think that's really important, and it is one of the how to talk skills. So so we do absolutely involve them in planning in have they got any ideas of what they particularly want that week, and then we incorporate that into the meal plan for the week.
Absolutely. I love that. It's so important, isn't it? It's just many people don't think about it. It's just so important. It just makes your life so much easier when you think but you need to kind of like get into this routine, because I know that many parents actually fear this, but once you start doing this, it just makes your life so much easier.
I mean, we are creatures of habit, and so we operate by habit. I'm just going to mention, if I glance to the side I look a bit funny, it's because my actual screen isn't working, so I can only see Ola over here. So I thought I'd mention that. We are creatures of habit, whether we like it or not. A lot of what we do automatically. Absolutely. Without thinking. It comes from our habits. So we
like
can consciously
all the time, isn't it?
Yeah. If you think, when you drive a car, most of that you drive it. Most of the things you're doing unconsciously. You're unconsciously competent. You just do it on automatic pilot. You change gear. You do, all the things. Obviously you're looking and you're aware of where you're going, but I'm sure you've had that experience where you've driven somewhere you've maybe driven many, many times and realize, and it's almost like you sort of wake up and you're like, how did I get to here? Because I wasn't like fully present. It's because you know the route. It's because you go into kind of autopilot. But we're like that with a lot of things in our lives, and and so we can have habits that don't serve us. We can fall into habits like, for instance, like Ola's mentioned, of using, the TV or a tablet, or, having the TV in the background, for instance. So it might take a little while to consciously decide, actually, how do you want things to be, and consciously change that, consciously change that habit to something that actually serves you. Because while we're eating, we want to be tasting our food. We want to be chewing our food well, so we have good digestion. And being connected and present with each other, having that as an opportunity for quality time, to spend some quality time as a family, and touch base, come together and touch base and see how everybody is, and have conversations. One of the things that we do.
Sorry, can I interrupt? That leads me to
of course.
another question. That's what probably you just we're going to talk about. So what do you think, how this can influence, like, between relationship between parent and children? So when, because obviously it's so common for parents to resort to mealtime distractions, and once everyone's watching something or everyone's on smartphones, and then they don't talk to each other, how this can influence, I mean, this relationship. So that, I know that's what you were going to talk about, so I thought, yeah, ask a question so it's clear.
Yeah. So the if everybody's on their phone or on a tablet or watching the TV, there's not only no connection with yourself, your own body, and what is happening, there's no connection with each other. So it's a massive missed opportunity to build relationships and actually, on a fundamental level, experience love.
Yeah.
So because when we come together, when we share a meal, when we have a conversation, that's an opportunity to talk about how, what you did that day or what you enjoyed about your day. One of the things we do at our meal times is we talk about what we're grateful for from that day.
Yeah.
We do some gratitude as part of our conversation when we have a meal. So yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity to connect. And I think if you're disconnected and you're not connecting at those times, then when are you going to connect? Because we're busy. Everybody's busy in our lives, and there are key points when we can connect with our children, which becomes really important, I think, as well as they get older and they go into teenage years when they probably want to spend even less time with us. To have those anchor points of sharing a meal together, I think, is really important. And it is an opportunity to talk about, things that went well, things that didn't go well, and have those conversations. And like I said, have that connection and experience love and feel loved and be part of a unit, be part of your tribe. So we all need to feel connection. It's one of our basic human needs. And you're not going to get, any amount of going on social media and stuff is not going to give you the connection you get from being with real human beings. And, who are there and who care about you and hold space for each other, really. So, some of the things that, so I think around meal times, it's important to have, and I think outside of meal times, to maybe think about having times when that are for being on, devices, rather than it just being on tap all the time. I know people who will have like a basket for the phones, and you when you come in from school or whatever, with older children, you put your device in the basket. And you certainly don't have them and you don't have them in your bedrooms, for instance. Whatever boundaries or whatever rules you want to have in your household, you've got to feel your way for this and find what's right for you. But it's to be conscious about, rather than just constantly stuck on our devices, because with these, we make our bodies little, and on a physiological level, when we're small, it affects our confidence. It affects how we feel. So there've been studies done. In the coaching that I do, I teach people about power posing, because when you're open and you're big and you're open, your adrenaline goes up. Actually, there's physiological chemical changes in your body, and you feel more confident. When you're small and closed up,
Yeah.
we our cortisol levels go up, our
Yeah.
stress hormone levels go up.
Yeah.
So this is something for parents to be really aware of, to
Yeah.
think about your body language, think about your posture, think about, am I spending a lot of time on a small device? Because just 2 minutes of an open posture changes how you feel, changes you physiologically. So I thought I'd share that with you. That's kind of separate to the how to talk, so kids will listen stuff, but I think it's really a valuable tip.
Yeah.
And we don't want to build a habit of having our bodies in positions that cause stress, basically.
Yeah.
So, being on devices a lot, it's something to think about. And, I think parents can worry about their children getting bored, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And
yes.
it's really important. Boredom is really important, actually, because
It is.
it's when we get to that point where we think, oh, I'm bored, which is when we become creative. So you've got to kind of push past that, allow your children to be bored, because actually then they will find something to do. Then they will, and they become more resilient, they become resourceful. But devices can be such an easy sedative, and I get it. There are times when you just want to get something done and you need your child to be occupied. But what I would say is to be mindful of not falling into the trap of using that all the time. Think of it as a tool, and think of it as using that tool, but not relying on it all the time. That for that not to be a constant state of being. And because we want to develop habits and we want to be good role models. So another of the how to talk so kids will listen skills is being role models as parents for our children, and creating space for them to grow and develop and understand themselves. And a mealtime is one of these anchor points, one of these times when you can share what your family custom is, to create a family custom. People have them at Christmas, or they have the things that their family does, and you can have that around your mealtime. Yeah, exactly. So you have your family custom, and there's something really reassuring and that feels safe about having those rhythms, and having positive rhythms, because we all have rhythms, we all have habits, whether we're conscious of them or not. So you want to have ones that are serving you, absolutely, because we do, whether we're conscious of them or not. Yeah.
And there's so many opportunities in these days to actually disconnect us from our bodies, from families, but that's what we need to be mindful. Especially in these days. Because when I was raised, I remember when we were at the table, and it was this habit of not to talk, right? Just focus on your meal, just eat, and once you're done, you can, you're off. But I think it's just when we should talk and share, and that's what you've mentioned. It's just so important to talk to each other, to build this relationship, because relationship just becomes stronger. That's what we want. We want really to build a really good and strong relationship with our children. So great stuff you've shared. So just guys, just talk to your children. That's so important. And for some, when you have a teenagers, so I think that could, for some of you, that could be the only opportunity actually to actually be able to talk to your children, and then they off to their room.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing, one of the things I just thought of as well is one of the things that we do in our house is we do have a mealtime kind of song.
Right, perfect.
So which is a coming to the table song.
All right, great.
And And so, and it's completely borrowed. It's completely borrowed from kindergarten. So, which is great. So my children went to a parent and child group where they had this song. They, you know, they had the same kind of song at kindergarten and the same song at home. So, which I love, because it means I don't have to shout, you know, time to eat, come into the table. And there's not this battle to get them to come to the table.
Yeah.
Once they start singing the song, they come to the table.
Yeah, because obviously they know.
You know, it's like a Pavlov's dog's response. You know, it's
like
and I know that might sound like, oh my gosh, I've brainwashed my kids. We are walking brainwashed people. That's what we are. We are walking habits. So, like I say, if you create a regular habit, and we've been doing that, you know, since our children were little. So, you know, the response to the song is to come to the table.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't have to shout, come and sit down, or nag or anything like that. They just come.
They just know,
and it's so powerful and so lovely. So that's a handy tip. And you can use song things as well. So, you know, I used song, I made up several songs when I was potty training, for instance. And, you know, you want them to sit on the potty. We would have we'd have a potty song. So I'd sing the song. a fun song. So yeah, I don't know if you started potty training yet, but it's really handy.
Yeah, I'm going to use that. Yeah.
It's great. So it works really well, and
I'm sure it does. Yeah.
And also, you know, the song that also then gets associated with "This is when I'm going to wee." So obviously, you might not want to sing that song when you're in the car.
Yeah.
But that's you know, it's a really useful thing to do. Yeah.
Really good. But
so,
really
I mean,
good
so if I may, I'll just explain a little bit about the how to talk so kids will listen, and listen so kids will talk skills. Because people probably don't know about them. And so basically these two ladies wrote a book a long time ago in the 80s. They wrote this book with a whole set of skills. Yeah, have you? You've read it?
I have, yes. I've read it, yeah.
So they worked with a psychologist for like 10 years and
like a
all the
Bible,
things
isn't it?
Yeah, they put into this
like
amazing book.
Yeah.
It's a great handbook. And so it's got it's brilliant. It's got lots of fantastic skills in there. It gives you an alternatives to ways that you might have been brought up with that you felt maybe didn't work, or so it gives you lots of alternatives, lots of different ways and phrasing and ways of you know, engaging cooperation with your children, or alternatives to punishment. Great ways of how to praise your children with descriptive praise, or which is very different to just saying well done or good boy or good girl. It's very different to that, and works really well and is meaningful, and really has the child feel loved, actually, and feel be able to absorb the compliment or the acknowledgement. So I love the skills. They're amazing skills, and I've been using them for many years, and they do really make life so much easier with children. So I went from kind of reading the book to I was already a facilitator, and so it was a kind of natural progression for me to then start delivering the course. Because, you know, I'm a great believer in, you know, the best way to learn something yourself or keep something alive for yourself is to teach it, you know, because when you're teaching somebody else and you're helping somebody else learn something, it keeps those skills fresh, because like exercising in your muscles, if you don't, you do lose it. Nothing is static. we're either growing or decaying. Nothing stays still. So I'm I love to learn, and I love to grow. And what I love about the skills is that you might read the book and you get something from it, but depending on what's going on in your life, one skill might really stand out, work really well, and then it stops working. And you'll read it again, and you'll get something else, and you'll try something else, and you can read it over and over and over again.
And always get something new. It's like, oh, right,
absolutely.
It's something you never thought about. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, one more question, Sarah.
Sure.
So for parents who want to stop using these meal distractions, what would you recommend doing? What would you advise? How they should talk to children? Because obviously children won't like it. Once they're used to something, we know that children, they don't like any changes. So if it's become like a routine, that's what they do. That they sit at the table, TV's on. So what would you what would you advise? How
first of all, I would have I'd have a conversation with them about it. So in the How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk skills, there's a technique called a problem solving technique. So when you've gotten into a habit that's been there for a while, and some things, and it's not working for you, and you want to make a change, it's great for that. And it's broken down into different parts, but basically it's about having a conversation with them. So you sit down, you have a chat, and say, watching the telly while we've been eating, and your dad and I feel that that's actually not working, and it's time to make a change. And how you feel about that, so you talk about how you feel, they talk about how they feel, and then you come up with ideas together of how you're going to go about making the change. All right. And what you do is you write down everybody's ideas. Doesn't matter if they sound like they're crazy ideas, or if they're unreasonable, or if your child says, well, we never eat again, you write down, we never eat again. You write whatever they give. You write all the ideas down, and then you come back and then to all the ideas, and then you you go through them together, and you agree which ones you're going to try out to make this change. So really, as the parent, you're kind of painting the vision. So you're kind of saying, this is what's been happening. We feel like it hasn't been working. We need to make a change, and we want to go to not having TV on anymore. So how can we do that? Have ideas. How can we do that? That it's still going to mean our meal times are enjoyable. And what I found every time I've done this sort of problem solving technique with my kids, and you can even do it with quite little ones, is they always come up with ideas that I've never even thought of myself. Like I would never have thought of, and they come up with.
Absolutely,
it's amazing. And it gives them this sense, it has them feel heard and listened to and heard. It gives them some choice and some empowerment, and they're far likely to do the things that they suggest than if you just go, right, it's going to be like this, la, 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 which just feels like a punishment. So when it's collaborative, it's much easier to make the change together, like you're in it together, so that's a fantastic technique to use, and is one of the ones that we use in How to Talk to Kids Will Listen.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. So thank you again for being here, Sierra. And Sierra would like to share with us her offer. So
yes. So it's the first time I've ever done this. On Friday is Black Friday, that people have a lot of and I am launching an online How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk course.
Right, perfect.
Which will start in January, but I am doing a 50% off offer.
Wow, yeah,
for Black Friday. Yeah, so it's a fantastic offer. And this is years, usually in person, but this will be an online version, but it will still be in person. It's not a self-led course. It is still in a group, but you're in a meeting, an online meeting room together. So there'll be discussion. And what I love about running this course is that you get so much, not just from the content, but also from the other parents' ideas, of how they, how things are going for them, how they're trying out the skills. Those discussions are fantastic. And there'll be also a Facebook group where people can have discussions as well outside of the weekly sessions. So you'll be able to find that on my page, my How to Talk So Listen, so Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk page.
So,
yeah. So we can put that in the comments. That will be live on Friday. Unless you're in my group, when you actually get it a few hours earlier, it'll be live on Thursday night in the group.
Right.
So if you want to join my How to Talk So Kids Will Listen UK group, you'll get access to that offer a little bit earlier. So I'd just like to give people who are in my group and interact in my group, special things and access to things a little bit earlier. Yeah. So we can put the details of both the page and the group there if that's something that interests you.
So if anyone's interested in improving your skills, how to talk to kids, so I think that's a wonderful course for you. And so what we said, we're going to copy paste the link in the comments, and you can access it. And it's a wonderful gift for Christmas even, and because it starts in January.
Absolutely.
So people even can
the course starts in January.
For Christmas for your family. It's kind of like for the whole family, isn't it?
It is for the whole family.
Improves the relationship. Lovely. Thank you so much.
And straight after Christmas, it's a good time to after you've had all that time with your family.
Absolutely,
you might want some skills for coming back to. I know people are busy over the holidays. That's probably the time when you really need it, to be honest.
This is true. But Christmas can be pretty stressful for many families.
When
When
you can start the new year off in a great space.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing all these really useful, lovely tips, and thank you for being here with us. And thank you again. So so that's it.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me, and look forward to connecting further.
Absolutely. I'm going to leave that on because I know there is a little of delay. So in case, I just don't want to shut it, everyone. So I'll wait just a few seconds. I just make sure, there's no comments to answer. No. But guys, if you have any comments, questions, you can obviously pop them in the comment box, and then we're happy to answer them if there's anything you would like to know more about this. What we've talked about today. Thank you so much for being here, and have a good night.
Bye, everybody.